Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that doesn't have a problem with you. Do you have a problem with me? Because I think we could. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and we are going to talk all about the classic game of Risk. It's a game of world domination in which various armies... What's that? Star Wars Risk? Star Wars Risk. Now there's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time. Star Wars Risk, for 2 to 4 players from Hasbro Gaming, is a game that takes your classic game of Risk and throws it out the window. In fact, I'm going to be blunt. I don't know why this game is called Risk. It doesn't feel like Risk at all. It's a very, very different game on many, many levels. And that's a good thing. Now, the game is kind of divided into 3 mini-games. The board itself is actually shaped like a Darth Vader's TIE Advanced fighter from the movies. Now, in the center, you have the battle above the forest moon of Endor, where you have the rebels trying to attack the second Death Star from the film Return of the Jedi. The one side, the one wing of the TIE Advanced, if you will, is kind of the battle between the rebels and the stormtroopers on the forest moon of Endor as the rebels are trying to shut down the shield generator. Now, on the other side of the other wing there, we have the Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker duel that's taking place on board the Death Star. So you have 3 little games going on at the same time. Now, here's the thing. What happens in one section of the board affects everything else in the other sections. Now, you're going to have a hand of 6 cards, and you're going to draw 3 of them to play each round. You're going to lay them down 1, 2, and 3, and then you kind of play them in order. Now, each of these cards has orders that's going to say what you can do in one of the sections. Most of these cards have 2 choices. Some of them have 3 choices. You can say, well, I'm going to play this in the space battle in the center, or I'm going to play this to fight Luke or Darth on the Death Star, or maybe I will fight on the forest moon of Endor. You have choices with the cards, and you're going to have, of course, 3 choices because you get 3 cards every turn during a round. Now, the rebels go first, and how it works is they are fighting that space battle against TIE fighters and against the Death Star itself, but they can't attack the Death Star until the shield's down, of course. Now, if the Empire draws a Death Star card, they can actually shoot the Death Star's mega super scary green laser at one of the attacking rebel capital ships. And they can essentially, if they roll a 6, they can just blow up the rebel capital ships and all the fighters that are on it. Once they've eliminated all the capital ships, they can actually target entire sections of the spaceport and just blow up any rebel ships in there. And that's a dangerous thing, and it takes a while to get to that. Now, also for the rebels or the Empire, they can move their ships around different sections. They can move and then attack into an adjacent section. The rebels also have the Millennium Falcon, and the Empire also has the Super Stardestroyer. They can move those things around, and they're very powerful ships that are going to be moving around the game, and they take several hits to defeat. Now, if you get a shield generator token for either the rebels or the Empire, you can, of course, engage on the battle on the forest moon of Endor. If you're the rebels, what you do is you can roll a number of dice, and you have to beat the numbers on the pathway. So if it's 2, you'd have to roll a 2 or greater to move. If 3, you'd have to roll 3 greater, etc., etc. And what the Empire can do is if they play the shield generator card, they can essentially place stormtroopers in the path. And what the stormtroopers do is they just make that roll harder. It just adds a +1 to those rolls, so they've got to roll higher than that. Now, once the rebels advance all the way to the shield generator, the shield is down, and now the ships can begin to attack the Death Star. And generally, they can hit the Death Star on a roll of, I believe, 6. They can take down the Death Star. Now, as all this is going on, you have that duel between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader that's happening on board the Death Star itself. When you play a Luke card or a Darth Vader card, you roll dice, and again, you're trying to hit certain numbers that will damage the other person, essentially knock their health down. There's also a card you can play with Emperor Palpatine. He can do the Force Lightning Strike there. That's just fun to do. And he can attack Luke and really hurt him. Now, here's the thing. If Darth Vader gets down to 1, 2, or 3 health, the rebel player can actually play a card to turn him from the dark side to the light, and that can give bonuses. In fact, there's a lot of things that give bonuses. Like if you destroy the Super Stardestroyer or you destroy the Millennium Falcon, you get a bonus, meaning you get to draw extra cards, take extra turns, do extra things that turn. So there's all sorts of bonuses that can pop up in the sense that you have more actions and more cards to play on. Now, the Rebels win the game if they destroy the Death Star. The Empire wins the game if they've destroyed all the Rebel spaceships. So this is a game that, arguably is a little bit weighted more toward the Rebels, although I've heard the argument it's weighted more toward the Empire. But it feels like it's probably easier ultimately for the Rebels to take down the Death Star than it is for the Empire to destroy all the Rebel ships. So that, in a nutshell, is the basic rules overview for Star Wars Risk. As I say, it's very, very unrisky. I haven't played this with 4 players. I've only played the 2-player game, and really it feels like a 2-player game. I don't know why you'd want to play this 4 players. This feels like a good 2-player game. The game itself is pretty fast. I haven't played a game that lasted longer than a half an hour. I've heard some people say it can go longer, but the games I played were usually pretty quick, pretty snappy, and they're fun. It's just a super fun, light, dice-chucking game that really puts you into the Star Wars universe. Now, if this exact same game had a different theme pasted on, I don't know that it would be as much fun. I would probably say maybe it's a little too light for me. But where it is Star Wars, and it really does evoke the feeling of Star Wars, you really do feel like you're in that final Return of the Jedi battle. It's just a lot of fun. If you like Star Wars, and let's be frank, you're probably just stupid if you don't. No probably about it. You'll like this game. This is a fun, light Star Wars game. Maybe if you don't want to go in for the complexity of something like Star Wars Armada or Star Wars X-Wing or Imperial Assault or one of these kind of bigger box games, but you still want a fun Star Wars experience, maybe something to play with a younger kid, I think you really get a kick out of Star Wars Risk. I enjoy it. I think it's super fun. So the recommendation for the Discriminating Gamer for Star Wars Risk is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us here on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And I've got a bad feeling about this.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Shut up, Justin!